All right, what's up, everyone? It's Zach, and today I'm here with a good friend of mine, Kyle Seychel. Kyle, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Zach?
Good, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking, and thanks for taking some time to chat today.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so Kyle graduated from the University of Michigan, played football there at the university, and was in the Ross School of Business. And then since college, has been working in commercial real estate in the Chicago area since. But that's just kind of the basics. Kyle, do you mind talking a little bit more about your background, who you are, what you're up to these days?
Yeah, sure. Zach, you and I go way back
Yeah.
to childhood, and I don't think I've seen you enough or in a while. And I've moved around quite a bit since our childhood days. But yeah, I went to the University of Michigan. Not many people from my town where I moved from when you and I lived together. Not many people went to Michigan, so. Um, was on my own and starting, in a pretty competitive environment in the engineering school. I wasn't in the business school when I began there. Also, did play football. I was a kicker, and it was a pretty great experience, to be honest. It was almost like having a full time job, but not being paid for it, of course. But found a year or so in that engineering wasn't for me. A lot of my friends were going into it. It was a 3-year program at Michigan, and most of my family, friends, colleagues were in the space. And so I ended up, submitting an application in there, and fortunately got in. Don't know what I would have done if I didn't, but um, it was again a pretty interesting experience. Football consumed quite a bit of my time, quite a bit of my afternoons. Workouts, practices, meetings were pretty grueling, but on top of that, the business school was pretty hard. Not necessarily a workload perspective, but the classes were intense with presentations, and students in the classes with me were pretty um, pretty smart. I came from Heartland, Michigan, and didn't really need to do much to do well in school. And I came to Michigan and learned that I was not at all the smartest in the room anymore. And so um, it was a humbling experience from that perspective, and also again too with football, very humbling experience. Was the only person from my high school to play Division 1, especially football. So it was kind of new territory for people from my, I guess from where I was living in high school and some of middle school. So, since graduating, and I can go into the experience with football or with the business school if you'd like, but since graduating, just did 4 years there. I went and worked in Detroit for Colliers International, which is a commercial real estate brokerage firm, and I was doing investment sales and note sale advisory. Is again in commercial real estate. So I worked in an analyst capacity there for about a year, and then my girlfriend at the time had moved to Chicago to go to law school. She's a IP attorney, or she's soon to be an IP attorney, um, which is now fast forward 3 years. But at the time, we had moved in together. I bought a place for us and found a really good opportunity at a competing brokerage firm, Cushman and Wakefield, but more in a associate capacity. The role is not so much numbers; it was more managing large transactions in the healthcare space specifically. So, selling large medical centers, hospitals, surgery centers, things like that. And so, it was a really good opportunity to take at my age, and luckily worked out with wanting to move to Chicago. The job is right in the downtown area, um, and so it was a great fit. And something you don't know just yet is I'm actually moving in about 3 weeks to Denver,
Oh wow,
um,
okay.
to be in a director role with CBRE, which is another competing brokerage firm. Um, but excited for that, and have never spent more than you know an hour or two in the downtown Denver area. I've always passed by it going to ski. So it's going to be a completely new city. Do not know anybody there. But it was a job I frankly couldn't refuse, and sounds kind of like an exciting adventure. So um, I'm really excited for that. So that's probably the most pressing thing in my life that I have going on. But um, other than that, I've started, I've been a part of many other businesses. I guess since junior, senior year of college. I can also talk about that too if you'd like. But some successful, some failed. But yeah, things are going to be changing here very quickly. But I think in a good way, an exciting way, different
Yeah,
lifestyle, everything. So
definitely. Well, first off, congratulations on the new position. That's awesome and well deserved for sure. And when you mentioned Denver, I was kind of like, that's it's definitely a new place for you, but I was like, I could see you doing really well there. I mean, I know you're like you said, with skiing and stuff, you're an outdoors kind of guy, and
yeah,
I feel like Denver's kind of one of those almost like newer age, kind of like up and coming places to be, especially for people like our age. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a really good adventure for you, man.
yeah. Thanks. I appreciate that, and I
Yeah,
think learning more about it too. You've been in the Midwest just as long as I have. It
yeah,
doesn't matter if it's Michigan or Illinois. Um, you know, you don't get a lot of warm weather here
right.
for much of the year, and frankly, it is pretty cloudy a lot of the year and overcast. And Michigan, in particular, and Chicago, beautiful in the summer, spring and fall. But a lot of those things that you like to do, maybe like skiing or golfing or hiking or biking, the things that you may want to do all year round, you can do in Denver. But the thing that I recently learned is that it's 85% or more of the year is sunny.
Mm.
And so, and you can ski in the winter, you can golf in the winter. I think the average temperature is 55 or
Oh
so
wow, that's nice.
in like December, January. So, in Denver, that is. So
Yeah.
you get the best of both worlds there. So, that'll be, I hope that's true, what I just said,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I
it's a
hope it
perk.
is too.
So,
Yeah, for sure. And, Kyle, something that you mentioned, was your time at Michigan, at the University of Michigan. And, you had a pretty hectic life and kind of student experience being a Division I athlete and being at, one of the most, I would say, prestigious universities in the country with some very competitive programs. When you were playing football and going through that, was your mind in like, this is what I'm gonna do, this is what I want to do, or were you still kind of thinking like, I'm at a really good university, like I need to prioritize my education, like my education is probably going to be my future. Like, I guess, did you have any split between those two
yeah.
components of your life at that time?
Um, well, coming out of high school, um, you never really know exactly what you want to do your
Yeah.
freshman year. Again, I started in the engineering school, didn't end up being the thing for me. Business was the thing for me, but there's so many different things you can do in business that I didn't necessarily have my mind made or set going into business school. But regarding football and, kind of where I wanted to be long term, um, I was a kicker. I did field goals and kickoffs.
Yeah.
I never started a day in my life on that team, and that was for various reasons. But it is a long shot to make it to the pros, and I certainly had the talent to do it, but I didn't think that it would be, my goal or my um, end all be all coming out of school. So I definitely had to place more of an emphasis on schooling. And there were certainly guys I knew on the team that school wasn't their first choice, right? It was, hey, I'm from a pretty rough background, low income, single mother. I'm not a 4.0 student, but my best opportunity to bring my family up, right? Or get my family out of the situation, or my friends or myself, is to make it to the pros. So I would argue at least 10% of the players I knew on the team came from that type of background. And so their mindset was probably a lot different than mine, which was my best bet is sports. And again, it's a long shot, but at Michigan in particular, you got a chance if you're recruited by them, and it's just for me that wasn't necessarily maybe as realistic as other players in different positions, but not just that. My background wasn't as threatening, right? And it wasn't as concerning to me. I think that played a big part in why some might prioritize the sport over others. So for me, it was a very good mixture. But another thing I'll mention too is in high school, football was just a fun thing that I do with my friends after school or on Fridays, and we'd get together after and have a good time, and it was more for the enjoyment of it. And I think because it was such a commitment in college that I loved the experience. I got to do things that nobody has ever, or not many people can really say they've done in college. But it was such a commitment, and it was a very serious thing for everyone involved, right? There was those players that was their goal, to be professional. It was coaches that were being paid large amounts of money to coach the team. Um, Everyone there was very serious about it, and it's like a company, and I was almost like a staff member. So the position I was in on the team turned into very job like. And so for me, it was difficult to manage the enjoyment out of it with all of the responsibilities that came with it. Versus in high school, again, it was more for the fun of things. And I think if you can maintain that enjoyment, all 4 years, and you can excel and start and play games, and um, manage the school sport balance, you're going to be great. I just think from my perspective, um, it was a difficult experience. It was very grueling, time consuming, a lot of perks to it, um, but not something I would have envisioned, being um, my long term career. So
Right.
that was a long way of answering that question.
No, I appreciate all the perspective. I think it's really good. And, you know, something just for anyone listening, Kyle kind of mentioned it um, earlier on with his introduction, but him and I, like, we've been friends since, geez, I don't know, it's probably been like close to like 18 years or something that we've known each other.
Yeah,
So, like, I know like Kyle's always been a big like athlete and really just like someone that, you know, I remember recess, you know, in elementary school playing football or soccer or kickball,
yeah,
whatever. So I know that just from those experiences, you were someone big that like you played these sports for the love of it, for the fun of it, to be with friends, to be social and stuff like that. So I think that's a good point to bring up that sometimes like especially at your bigger, you know, D1 programs and you know, I feel like there's like D1 programs and then there's like Michigan football. Like Michigan football is kind of in a league of its own compared to like other D1 programs, right? Like it's just such almost like a religion, you know, in Ann Arbor. So just realizing that internally it's probably like you said a lot more like a business and a company and that can kind of take away some of the fun and some of that, you know, just like childhood dream, if you will,
sure.
out of it and just make it more of kind of like a great experience, something that, you know, you're grateful for, you're happy you went through, but, you know, very tough. And, you know, I also like the perspective that you provided about, you know, like for some people, stepping onto that field was their maybe, you know, one chance at
Yeah,
bettering their future or their family or, you know, loved ones. And, you know, I think that that's something that, you know, it almost we might forget about just kind of like from the outside looking in as maybe like fans or spectators that, you know, like some people might say like, oh, it's just a game. Like, why are they taking it so seriously or whatever? And it's like, because for some people that might be like the one opportunity that they have to really make it.
right. Yeah, and I think you're right about you're spot on with the perception of the public and fans and even rivals. You just a lot of for a lot of people, you see the players. It doesn't matter if it's just Michigan or any other big team or small team. You're seeing them on Saturdays, and but you're not seeing what's happening every day of the week leading up to that, and the day after on Sunday too. And um, I think uh, if people could see what happens throughout the week, and I also think there's a misconception about athletes and how well they do academically, and how much effort they put in, or what classes they're taking, and there's kind of a stigma, I think, against some athletes, but you know, at Michigan, I can only attest to Michigan. Although there were a lot of players that they were trying to get out of or break free from whatever their childhood trauma was, or wherever they were from, being a difficult situation. Yeah, football might have been one, if not only, their only route to get out of it and make money in the future. But you know, most of the guys on the team, and the athletes I knew at Michigan, no matter their background, worked their you know what off
Yeah,
in everything. And that goes for academics, that goes for professional opportunities. And so yeah, I think if people could see the grind that goes on throughout the week, not just in athletics too, but in academics and um, professional life and all that, it would be, I think it would open a lot of people's eyes up. So
definitely. And, you know, I'm sure this is probably, you know, a question that you could talk about for hours and really dive into like the nuances of it. But I guess just, you know, from a surface level, I guess, Kyle, as an outsider, as someone listening who, you know, hasn't gone through the experience of being a college athlete, you know, whether that's D1, D2, whatever, um, you kind of talked about that perception of what the life's like and, you know, not really seeing everything that goes into it, just the glamorous part. Like if you're a football player, you know, seeing them, you know, walk out on the field on a Saturday, you know, and just like, oh, like they're, you know, just living out their dream. But like, what's some of like the behind the scenes grueling aspects that you experienced or you watched people experience while being a college athlete?
Well, I can give you two different experiences I had.
Yeah.
And it'll also, well, actually three. It'll give people perspective on, the work that was required to even stay on the team. So when I first joined the team, so I was recruited, but I wasn't given a scholarship. Again, I was a kicker. I was not um, the 5-star recruit that everybody wanted to meet and play with. But when I joined the team, I had to go through a 3-week program with one of the assistant strength coaches. His name's Louis Corella. He's an amazing guy, but I did this with 3 or 4 other walk-on. That's what we're called, just preferred walk-ons that were recruited, but again, we're not given a scholarship, not highly touted, but we're still on the team. But they had to, basically prove themselves, and so a way to do that was to go through this little program that we did, and we did it with 3 or 4 other preferred walk-ons. And so what we did for the first 3 weeks before any practices began, any meetings began, is we did workouts for 4 or 5 hours a day, upper body, lower body, um, cardio, but really, really intense workouts to kind of beat us up and to weed out the quitters. And although we were recruited to play on the team, they said if you didn't get through this, you're not allowed to stay. And there's actually 2 guys that again were recruited. I don't know where they were from. They might have been from out of state even. And they went through these workouts. Doesn't matter what position you are, you're doing them same as the other guys. And you had to manage that around schoolwork, adjusting to campus life. And then again, you have these 4 or 5 hour workouts straight. And they're meant to, and I almost compare it to Hell Week for, if you've ever seen like Navy SEALs, or
Mm-hmm.
people go through these really intense mental and physical tests to weed out the people that don't want to be there or aren't fit to be there. And so that was my first experience with the team. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't, I didn't get to be in the media day. I had to stay back and do workouts while everybody was talking to the press. And that was a very small portion of the team, right? It was only 4 or 5 guys, but I had to do that because I had to earn my way onto the team. But I think another thing that people don't necessarily think about are, you know, I think a year or two in, we had just regular workouts, and they were in the worst workouts were in the spring, before the spring game, in the winter too, and then the summer. The summer workouts were terrible, but the strength and conditioning staff are militant about things. So I had one workout where I was partnered up with a guy of similar size, could lift similar weights to me. And so everybody partners with someone of similar size. Hard to do for someone that's the skinniest person on the team. But anyway, it worked out.
Yeah.
And you were supposed to follow on this piece of paper that was on one of the doors that said what workout rotation you were going to start in, because we had 30, 40 guys in the group, and not that many strength and conditioning staff members. So they needed to be very coordinated. And so my partner went to check the paper to see where we were starting first, and then you'd shift as the workout goes along. But he ended up putting us in the wrong rotation to start. And what that did was we would start the first hour of the workout is in the weight room, doing, again, weightlifting and uh, core full body workout. And then halfway in, we'd run to the stadium and do stadium steps, gassers, those type of things. But in the beginning, when we had messed up where we were supposed to be, we got called out for it, and they figured out that it was us. And so they made us, while everybody else is working out, they made us go out onto the field with one strength coach, get a sled, put 4 or 5 45-pound plates on it, and put a rope around our waist, or we could hold it on our shoulders or arms. And my partner and I had to do 5 times 200-yard sled pulls
Oh my God.
each. And the workout was extended by the amount of time it took for us to complete it. So the whole team had to wait, continue doing their workout until we were done. And then once we were done, we would continue the workout where we left off. And so it basically would extend the workout by an additional 30 minutes. But the reason I mention that is because it's a mental, really a tough mental challenge.
Yeah.
Not only physical but mental. And I think if take the glamour out of it, it's there are starting players that go through that same thing. You make a little mistake or a big mistake, there's a consequence to it, and that doesn't necessarily exist in my life now. But what it did was, taught me so many things. Doing things right the first time. If they're not done the first time, you know, it's just putting the work to make sure things are done right. And I think that's just a testament again to what people are seeing on Saturdays. It's not the glamour, it's we're paying for that, right? And sweat
Yeah.
and blood and all of that, to get to Saturday, So exceptions can be made, but um, that was a regular occurrence. I mean, that happened often. So
Wow.
people don't see that though. If you're late to a workout, you gotta you got to show up on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday morning, which basically eliminates you from being able to go out with your friends. If you're late to a meeting, you're late to a workout, you got to come in one of those days at like 5 in the morning and clean the weight room and
Wow.
study hall. Yeah, it's just, there's a lot to it that people don't necessarily see. Again, though, I'm really happy that I went through that.
Yeah.
It was a great experience and things to take away, and bring to my life now away from that lifestyle. So,
Yeah, definitely. And I've always been someone that I think like we played sports together growing up, as kids, and I've always loved sports, and I've been fortunate enough to call a lot of college athletes friends, a lot of people that we grew up with, or that I met throughout high school or whatever, did play college to some extent, which has been cool to kind of see, hear their journey and stuff like that. But even all that being said, what you just shared, Kyle, like I didn't even really have much perspective on. And like hearing you say that, I'm just thinking like, wow, like that's so much that even someone like myself who like knows other college athletes, you know, I don't even know all of what goes into it. And, just from someone completely outside of this world, like to hear that kind of stuff, they're probably like, oh my God, like that's just a perspective shifting kind of like story or just, experience that you shared. So, I appreciate that for sure. And something that I've always respected about you, specifically, is kind of like you mentioned, being a preferred walk on. Like that's,
mhm.
you literally had to earn every second. Like you had to earn the ability to put on that jersey, put on the helmet, be there on Saturdays. Like that, like you said, you were recruited, you had some exposure that way, but you had to earn it from day one. And that takes a lot of work and drive and motivation because like you said, like it's kind of like you have to go through that time where it's almost like the staff is trying to break you to like weed out who
Right.
is fit for it and who isn't. So like just have that mental strength because I think a lot of people think like, oh, you just have to be strong, you have to be physically strong, but I'm sure probably more of it was the mental strength.
Sure. Yeah, the mental strength was the thing I took away the most
Yeah.
um, from that whole experience, the 4 years. People always ask me, well, what was it like to just kick in the big house? And I traveled to all the other places as well, the other games we had. And again, I never started, but I did have the opportunity to kick in front of 120,000 people. And, to be frank, that was really not a big deal. I actually enjoyed kicking in front of a lot of people. I
Yeah.
think I kick better. But that's separate than this mental toughness that we're talking about. That's a whole different type of mental fortitude, right? But
Right.
but yeah, it taught me so many things about myself and kind of a work ethic and mindset that I didn't really think you could achieve.
Hmm.
I had a lot of people pushing me to achieve it, um, which don't have now. But again, it kind of gave me the foundation. So it's affected every aspect of my life.
Definitely, definitely. And I just want to go on the record and say, to anyone listening, I've seen Kyle kick. He's got a leg. I've seen some of the like videos you posted like hitting, I don't
Sure.
even know, like 50, what, 60 is like I think I've seen you hit like a 65.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've hit an 80
Oh
before,
my God.
but I don't have that one on video, so you may or may not believe me,
I believe
uh,
you.
but yeah. So
Yeah. Oh man, that's wild. But
I'm not the only one that can do that, by the way. There are a lot of others that can.
really,
But it is cool to see. I bet if you don't see it every day. So.
yeah. Oh man. Well, yeah, I definitely believe you. I mean, I know like because I know you started kind of with soccer,
Hmm.
before football. So I know you had that leg strength all your life, but that's really awesome. And I'm also not surprised that you can sit here and say like, oh, like I could kick in front of a whole bunch of people, and that doesn't really phase you because I feel like that's how I know you. I know you as someone that I feel like thrives off, that kind of pressure or expectation or just that energy, like you have people cheering for you, or people even wanting you to fail,
Sure.
maybe fans of the other team, and like that just kind of fuels you to hit those goals. So that was definitely cool to hear too. But Kyle, you kind of mentioned how you've learned a lot from that experience and work ethic, mental fortitude. um, would you say those are like the biggest things that you took away from that college experience or the college football experience and have implemented in your life currently? Or were there any other big things that you would say have really helped shape you from that experience to who you are today?
Um, yeah, a couple things. Well, from a football perspective, what I took away from that was yes, the mental toughness, mental fortitude, work ethic is a huge thing, and accountability. Um, what I took from the business school, which I did not start with, by the way, and I
Right.
didn't even think that I was going to stay in the business school because for a long time I had confidence issues because, again, I wasn't used to um, being around so many people that were so much smarter than me. But what it did, and by the way, I was not a 4.0 student. I was average at best, but what it did for me being in that school was give me the confidence to compete. Maybe compete's not the right word, but to do things at the level intellectually and athletically and physically that the top people in the world are doing, and realizing that I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I just, the business school gave me the confidence to work with people, manage people, or um, listen to people that are smarter than me. And it really opened my eyes to, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You need to be the hardest working, and you got to have confidence in yourself. And both of those experiences gave that to me. Now, a lot of where I'm at in life right now, I'm 25, and I think professionally, in the corporate world, a corporate sense, I've climbed the ladder very fast.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason that's happened is because of two things. One is luck. Um, this job that I just got that's in Denver wasn't even posted. Um, I just messaged the guy that runs the group and said, "Are you guys looking for somebody? I love what your team is doing. Think I could contribute immensely, or at least immediately." And it started a 3-4 month conversation that did lead to a job. And but it wasn't necessarily because uh, I had the skill set up front that they noticed, or they knew me before and knew that they wanted someone like me. No, it was kind of just luck. It was timing. But also, I've had experiences with support staff of mine or coworkers that um, don't necessarily have a desire to put in the extra time to learn something or to get something done or get it done right. And I found that if you just take the time, especially when you're young, you and I are still really young, to learn as much as you can, but also put the time in and show people that you are the most reliable person in the room, you'll go far. It's the same thing with football, same thing with the business school, same thing with my professional life. It's how can I be the most accountable person in the room? And, when you're the most accountable person in the room, people have confidence in you to do things that someone your age might not normally do, or someone with your experience level might not normally do. And, I've put in long hours in the office. Um, I've done well in the sales space, but I think that's what I took from my experience in college, and it's translated to my professional life. There are things I wish would be better or could be better, but I think overall, um, it's that experience in college really has benefited my professional career in a lot of ways that I've touched on already. So,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it sounds like, have you ever heard the term imposter syndrome?
mm-mm.
So imposter syndrome is basically like it's stemming from psychology where it's like we feel like we're an imposter in a situation where we're actually qualified for. So like maybe, kind of where that came to mind for you was like when you started the business school, you said like, or even just Michigan in general, you're like, I wasn't the smartest in the room anymore. I was surrounded by so many smart people, and maybe that is what impacted your confidence. Like, oh my God, like everywhere I look, there's someone smarter than I am. Do I really belong here? Should I really be in the
Sure.
business school? Even maybe for sports, should I really even be on the team? Whatever. Um, I think that that's something that a lot of people struggle with. I've struggled with it. Just like even this last year, as I started grad school, just like maybe I have a hard test and I'm like, oh my God, like I don't belong here. But
Sure.
then at the end of the day, it's like I applied, I got in, like, I'm doing well. Like I do belong, but it just doesn't feel like it. So,
I,
you
I
know, I,
think I think
yeah.
too you're not doing it right if you don't feel uncomfortable. Like
Mm,
I think what you mentioned, I think you said was imposter syndrome. It's
yep.
it's sort of, I think you need to feel that way in some sense, or you need to feel anxious about something or unprepared for something, in order to, I think you're not doing it right if you're not having that feeling going into new things. Like, I'm going to this job in Denver, but I truly do not feel like I'm experienced enough for the role. But again, it was a timing thing. They do need in this role, and I have the foundation to do it.
Hmm.
But I just don't think you need to be entirely comfortable in order to. I think you need to be uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
To achieve more. I think that's really the case.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great perspective, and I think, it makes sense, right? Like it's kind of the moments in life where we grow the most are when we are uncomfortable and we put ourselves out of that comfort zone to really, grow and expand. And I mean, even just, we've talked a lot about football and working out. So like for people that, are in that space, think about working out. Like when you're trying to grow your muscles, like you're not just doing some comfortable like weight that you can easily lift. You have to step out and you have to add the weight, add the reps, whatever. And that's uncomfortable. It's tough. So I think Kyle, that's a great point. Like you have to kind of become comfortable with being uncomfortable, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
It sounds cheesy, but
Yeah.
it really, I mean, it's really true. I think people, and I know many people, and I care about them. I love these people, but I think people get too comfortable.
Yeah.
Um, and some people are happy with that, and they found their spot, they found their place, and maybe it doesn't matter to them, to
Hmm.
have the next job, the next big job, or make X amount of money, or have this title, or some people don't care about that. And I almost wish to a degree that I didn't so much. But if you do want something new or better, or um, to achieve something, you do need to step out of your comfort zone and
Hmm.
acknowledge that you don't know enough, or you may not know enough, or but what really matters at the end of the day is that work ethic and accountability. I'm telling you, that's the biggest thing I took away from my experience at Michigan. It really is. And I failed in a lot of ways at that, by the way,
Yeah.
at Michigan. I did. I failed in a lot of ways. And there are people that can attest to that, that coaches of mine, and teachers of mine. And but what's in the past is in the past, and you got to learn from it. So, and that's, I think, what I have done, especially over the last 2 or 3, 4 years. So,
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's something that separates you and in your mindset from, other people that we all are going to make mistakes in life. I've made, plenty of mistakes. I've failed. You just mentioned you've done the same. But, I feel like a lot of people we might go through that and just be like, oh, whatever, we made a mistake, move on. But like you just said, like you really had to take the time to learn from that uncomfortable experience, and that's
sure.
what's helped you become who you are and given you, the skill set that you now have.
Right, right.
So, Kyle, you mentioned a lot, like the biggest things you've taken away have been accountability and work ethic. um, for anyone that's listening, maybe they don't feel that they have the strongest work ethic, or the most drive when it comes to work, or maybe they have a hard time being accountable, whether it's professionally or even with a workout schedule, or any life demand. Do you have any advice for people who might be struggling with either of those to help them get better in those skills?
Um, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. At the end of the day, I can say anything on this podcast to, you know, encourage people to
Hmm.
do those things or to not do those things. But at the end of the day, it's really up to the person to make that decision. And um, there's a close friend of mine that's going through something like that right now, and um, I can give him all of my advice and opinion try to help him as much as I can through what he's going through. But he, at the end of the day, needs to make that choice to, you know, do the things he needs to do to be successful or to be in a better spot mentally, physically. So I wanted to put that disclaimer out there. But um, the first thing I'd say is, again, it's going to sound kind of cheesy, but you got to set some small goals. Um, you can't just say, okay, you know, I want to be making $100,000 in my next job. I'm currently making $15 an hour. You know, as a waiter, it's okay. How are we going to get to that point? And in order to get to that point, what are these small goals you need to do? So my friend that I just mentioned, obviously won't name his name, but he, you know, he has a very hard time with getting up in the morning and getting rolling out of bed and just cranking out work. And so I said to him that the first small goal for him would be to set his alarm for 6, 7 in the morning. It's really hard to do when you're not used to it. Set it in the morning and just get up. I even told him, I said, be my alarm. Be my alarm. Call me in the morning at 6, 7 in the morning and wake me up. Again, I can't force him to do anything, but I'm trying to encourage him to say, okay, me waking up at 9:30, 10 o'clock, you're wasting daylight, right? Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's so much that can be done in one single day. And so setting that small goal um, will make major differences. I mean, just imagine, right? That small goal will give him an extra 3, 4, 5 hours a day to progress toward his goal. I mean,
Yeah.
just that one small thing. And so whatever it may be, or you want to get the job you want to get, you want to, you know, lose weight, you want to gain weight, you want to, it doesn't matter. I mean, when I graduated from Michigan, I lost 35, 40 pounds. And I had to have my girlfriend at the time tell me that, Kyle, you're starting to look unhealthily skinny. You know, I didn't have the workout program I was on. I didn't have the meal plans that I was on. Wasn't working out as much, you know, but what I did was I set small goals, and that began with taking out pop, just drinking water, changing up my meals, and going to the gym more frequently. I know it sounds like just common sense, but you can't just, you know, you can't just skip all these steps. So that my one and only suggestion would be make small goals, write them down, and then just cross them out as they happen. That's what's worked for me, at least.
Yeah, I think that's great. And, I like how you kind of emphasize the idea of like actually writing them out, cross them out. I think that, I could tell you right now, like, hey, Kyle, this is my goal. That's great. Like, I just said it, it's public, whatever. But I feel like when you write it down and you can like, even write it down and put it like next to your, bathroom mirror. So you have to look at that
Mm-hmm.
every morning and like just almost feel uncomfortable in the sense of like, okay, it's been a week. Have I accomplished that? No.
Yeah.
And like, not to say that you need to accomplish, all these goals,
Sure.
these small goals right away, but just even like, I feel like if you're motivated enough, when you realize like you have to look at that and like look yourself in the mirror and say like, I haven't even progressed like 1% closer to that. Then it's kind of like that sometimes might light that little fire that you need to say like, all right, time to, get my life figured out or get whatever figured out and just actually start pursuing this and starting with the small things, right? Like you said, we can't get caught up in like, oh, I want to make $100,000 this year when you don't have a job currently at the moment. Like
Right.
set those little goals that will help you get to that big ultimate goal of yours.
Right. And that's kind of, the case for my friend and a lot of
Hmm.
other people. It's, you know, those small goals will put yourself or give you more opportunities, will put yourself in in a much better position to reach the next step. Just you
Definitely.
can't skip steps. You can't expect the world and not hit these little goals. So that's
Yeah.
always worked for me, or not always worked. I just meant that's kind of always been my prerogative. So
Yeah.
um, that's what I'd suggest.
Okay. Perfect. And Kyle, something that you've talked about is just setting, like goal setting, and even you mentioned like waking up early. I would consider you someone, a friend of mine who I would say is a successful individual, right? And success is relative. I might sit here and say you're successful. You might say, I'm just maybe barely scratching the surface of like your definition of success. But,
Mm-hmm.
I think you're a good person. You've accomplished some good things professionally. Like, yeah, you've had some setbacks and failures, but I would say, you're you're doing pretty okay. Do you have any daily routines or things that like you go through or do every day that help you be the best version of yourself?
Um, so I'll kind of sidetrack for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, my success, whatever that is, and me being happy with what I've done, and whatever my definition of success is, has changed a lot over the last year or two. I've definitely coming out of Michigan, you know being around people that, again, were smarter or more athletically gifted. A lot of them had more money than me, had more materialistic things or drives in their life, and frankly, were getting a lot of jobs that I really wanted to get. And now that I'm fast forward 3 years later, I kind of have a lot of those things in a sense, or have the ability to have those things. Um, it's put me in a mindset now where I've reached that point personally and professionally, but I've realized that it really doesn't make me any happier. Um, and so I think what I've realized is success to me, especially, look, I'm going to Denver, I'm going to be on my own. The only thing I'll really have to lean on in terms of a network or a community is my job. And what I've learned through COVID and breakup that I went through about a year ago, is to really be happy with myself. And your work doesn't define you. Your relationships with significant others doesn't define you. And the success that I've always wanted to have, and I'm having now, but I've always wanted to have because others have had it more than me. You know, I think being happy with what you can do on your own and not worrying about what others have and have done is a big life lesson. And so, what I do every day to, continue to have that mindset is, I'm trying to think of how to bridge this. I have my routine, but every day, I put in every ounce of effort I can into my job, and to, spending time with friends and family, but recognizing that, my work, which I've dedicated to the last 3 years, for most of my days, is not what defines me. And, um, you know, with that in mind, I've been able to prioritize other things in my life that I think are more important. And look, you and I, and I've talked to you about it in the past. This is going to get turned around a little bit, but you and I have experienced a lot of loss,
Yeah.
and I've lost a lot of people that I've deeply cared about in my life, and um, what that's done is it's made me really place value on the time I have here. And for me, what motivates me in the morning and, what gets me through the day and, all of that is passion in my work, but also, you know, um, recognizing that I'm here, others aren't, and I've got I've got a lot of opportunity ahead of me. I've got hopefully a lot of time ahead of me, and so especially if anybody's in a rut or like we just talked about, what can get them out of bed or early and get their mind in a better place or whatever. Um, just recognize that you're really lucky to be here, and I don't care what my position is or where I am. Just recognizing that you're here. You hopefully have a lot of time. You got a lot of opportunity ahead of you, and I just think every day is a fresh start. So I don't know. I have my routine, but I get up in the morning and I don't acknowledge every day that I'm lucky, but I do feel like just being here, being healthy, um, being able to, you know, um, put my brain toward whatever I need to, work the hours I can. You know, I'm very lucky, and I take that with me every day. So I don't know if I answered that properly, but that really is how I feel. So
Yeah, I
just
mean,
to
that's
put
a
me
great
along.
answer. Yeah, that's a great answer, and I think it's really powerful, just the idea of gratitude and being grateful and realizing, like even something that I've been doing, probably I would say within the last year is just like every day, like, the first thing I do when I wake up is just like it might sound like cheesy or whatever, is like I just say thanks. Like, thank you for, another day, another like chance to do what I love or to be with the people that I love. And, I think that it's just that perspective of like you've been through a lot, like you've experienced loss, same on my end, like we've talked about, off the record and stuff, but we're still grateful for each
Yeah,
day that we get and each day that we get to be here. And hopefully for both of us that's a lot more time ahead of us, but just going into the day knowing like we're thankful for this present moment that we're in, and we're going to do what we can to make the most of it. And for you and I, and maybe people listening, that might be going 110% into our job or whatever, but also like making the most out of it in the sense of like if you haven't talked to a friend in a while, or you haven't, got on the phone with a family member, like give them a call, like reach out to them, go catch up with someone, get coffee, whatever. Like it's just making the most out of our days in every aspect, because like you said, you're not just your job. Like, there's so much more to who Kyle is,
hmm
and like to make sure that you're taking care of all those things and doing what's really important to you.
yeah, and what you are passionate about and
Exactly.
what makes you happy too. There's a lot of people in jobs that they may not love, and I'd say find what you love, and I think I keep bringing up that friend of mine that's going through a tough time right now.
Hmm.
He is trying to find that, and I can help him as much as possible. But um, it's up to him at the end of the day to figure that out for himself. But I never want someone to figure that out too late. I think us being young, um, is of great benefit, and
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah, no, I love that. And I definitely, hope that your friend's able to find what they're passionate about. And anyone listening, like, I hope you're able to find what you're passionate about. And Kyle and I were both 25, but, in the grand scheme, we're still super young, right? We're babies, in this world.
hmm
So even if you're around our age, maybe a little older, like you still have time. Like Kyle said, it's kind of, we'll say better, or it's easier if you find that passion early on. But like even if you're like, 30 or something, like you still hopefully have a lot of time ahead of yourself. So don't beat yourself up if you haven't quite found that passion yet. But just try to do what you can, to figure out what that is, what gets you excited every day and what you can really spend your time doing, whether that is like a job or just, maybe you're really passionate about, art. So you work a 9 to 5, but you paint, after work, and maybe
Right.
that's like your dream, or, you love food, so you want to cook or whatever it is, just find what you love and go all in with it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to think about it because um, again, my job doesn't define me, but I do enjoy my job, but it's
Hmm.
not necessarily you know the passion of my life, and um, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that as well. But um, a relative of mine is around 30 years old, and he's been working a job again that's been fruitful to him from a professional, but also just an earnings perspective, and he's high up in the company, and but what does he really love? He loves music, right? And so he's actually applying a lot of the things that he's learned in the last X number of years in his profession. He's applying it to the music industry and production and songwriting and all of that. And I'm just using that as an example because that never went away from him. He's always had that close to him, and now he's really pursuing it because I think he realizes he can really make something of it with what he's learned. And so constantly surrounding yourself with things you're passionate about and love and all of that. I think it could pay you dividend. It'll not. I'm not talking dollars. I'm talking it could really be rewarding in the long run.
Yeah.
Just always have something there that you can count on. So
I totally agree. I love that, with your family member, and I think that's so important. Whether it is financial dividends or, just life satisfaction, or maybe for, your relative, um, they do something musical, and then, one person hears it and they're like, wow, that is exactly what I need to hear when I was going through the toughest time in my life. So like even that, like, it pays dividends and just like making a difference in the world or in someone's life. Like whatever you're passionate about, there are people that appreciate it, respect it, love it, and at the end of the day, you love it. So just keep after it and keep going for it. Um, one of the last things I want to ask you, Kyle, is you talked about you're passionate about your work. You enjoy it, but it's maybe not your biggest life passion. At this stage of your life, what is something that you're really passionate about?
um, I think that I can just talk about what I would like my future to look like because
Yeah.
what I'm passionate about is um, it applies to how I'm trying to live my life and how I want it to be in the future. I think there's two things. Um, Again, the last year or two has been, especially with COVID and the world coming to a halt, for so long last year that I had a lot of time on my own and was able to reflect on things and be independent. And so the first thing I'd say is really trying to figure out what I love to do and what I'm proud of doing. And I think, yes, I'm in the corporate world and um, I'm going to work for a very large organization, but I think my long-term passion is just I don't necessarily care about having the biggest title in the world at the biggest company in the world and making all this money in the world. I think one thing I really am passionate about is just finding a profession or you know something that I can do every day in the sense of a profession, but really not worry about what other people think about what I'm doing or worrying about where other people are. Like, we have competitors, right? In my space, I've got managers that manage me. I've got bosses. And although it's good to have them there to hold you accountable, I think long term, you know, I'd really like to continue to shift my focus to, hey, I'm happy with what I've done. I'm happy with what I currently do, and um, I don't think anybody else's opinion really matters. I mean, you of course got to be accountable,
Hmm.
but um, I think making sure that I'm happy with myself and not worrying so much about what other people think, that's something to think about. And then the second thing would be charity. Um, I've been very fortunate personally, and my family too. With where we're at financially, and being in the position I'm in has opened doors up, and football has opened a lot of doors up too. But I think giving back in some way it will be a passion of mine. I've done it on small levels, but um, just utilizing the network I have, utilizing my family, my professional life, my own means, everything, to help people that don't have the opportunities I had. I mean, I've had a very unique experience. Um, I've worked for most everything I've gotten so far, but again, there's been luck. There's been more opportunities than a lot of other people have had. Again, a lot of those players that I was friends with on the team came from nearly no opportunity, and football was their opportunity to get out. Well, there's a lot of people in that position that don't even have the opportunity to play football. So um, I think, yeah, being happy with yourself and not worrying about what others think. And um, I don't necessarily know if that's a passion, but it would lead into something one day, I think, um, that I'm working toward right now professionally. And then the second thing would be, yeah, is to give back, because I've reaped many benefits from my situation, my home life, my education, athletics, my career, um, and I'm not content with where I am, but I think if you can help a lot of people that didn't have that opportunity that I had, or don't have the um, maybe the work ethic that I do, or the drive that I do, I think you can instill that in a lot of people, or at least help guide them to that,
Yeah.
to be even better than me or you, or people that maybe have uh, gotten to the place that they want to be, or are almost there. So,
Yeah, definitely. No, I appreciate you sharing those, passions, goals, whatever you want to call them. I think, just being happy with yourself and with where you're at and what you're doing and not, worrying about what others think. I think that I would say that is a passion in the sense of like you're passionate about just doing what is important to you and
mhm.
making the most out of your situations in your life and, just charity and giving back and helping others. I would say like, you know, the passion is that you just want to help others and just be someone that maybe can serve as a mentor even and
Yeah,
just even like our conversations recently and today I feel like I'm thankful and grateful to call you a friend, but I feel like just from chatting with you about some of these things I've learned a lot, and it's almost like that mentorship I'm seeing where I'm just like, okay, like these are some really good perspectives and it helps me grow on my journey. So I
sure.
appreciate you for that, and I know you'll be able to continue to, whether it's mentorship or maybe financially or your time or whatever, to give back and to, help in ways of service for others. So I appreciate those perspectives. Kyle, if anything that you talked about or we talked about today, if anyone listening really resonated with it or just kind of wants to maybe be in the loop of where your professional and personal journey takes you, do you have any sort of like social media or like LinkedIn or whatever that you would want to put out if anyone wants to reach out to you?
Yeah. I mean, I have a LinkedIn. I've got Instagram. I'm not on Instagram very often, but I'm happy to, talk to people or, I don't know if my life is fascinating enough for people to follow, but, I'd be glad to have you share that in some way. I know we're on a podcast here, but you can find me really on any social media platform. So happy to network with anybody willing to or would like to. So
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Kyle, for that. Yeah, look up Kyle if anything resonated, you want to chat with him or, to connect or network, anything like that. Kyle's a great guy for sure and someone that I really respect and value. So definitely a great resource if anyone wants to connect. Kyle, as we wrap up, do you have any last words or message that you want to give to anyone listening?
no, I don't really. I think you did a great job. I know, the podcast series is just, ramping up for you. So I'd be eager to hear who, the other folks that you bring on and
Yeah.
hear their perspectives and see where their conversations go. Because you and I have talked, several times in the past about things, and we've talked about a lot of different things. So, if I can ever add perspective to any other podcast, just let me know. And I look forward to hearing the other conversations that you have. So
Definitely, I appreciate it, man. And Kyle, it's been great chatting with you. I'm pretty sure this is actually the longest podcast recording I've done. We've had a lot of great things to talk about, and I have no doubt that whatever you do in life, you're gonna be doing what you love, and you're gonna be putting your best foot forward, and helping others when you can and where you can, and just through this conversation, I think anyone can learn that you're just a very genuine, level-headed person with a great, head on your shoulders. So I'm excited, as your friend to see this new chapter with your career and just where life takes you, man. And, it's been a pleasure calling you a friend for the last, like I said, like whatever, 18 or so years. It's
mhm.
it's been a good ride, and I'm excited to continue on with you, man.
Yeah, thanks for those kind words, and
Of course,
I'm sure we'll be in touch soon. So
we will for sure. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Kyle. You take care. I'll talk to you later.
yeah, you too. See you, Zach.
See ya.